welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be filming today's video. We are going to be doing kind of like a reading wrap up, and I was kind of iffy on how I wanted to go about this. My original goal was actually to read 100 books. That did not end up happening. I kind of calculated it. If I wanted to read roughly 100 books, I'd have to read 8 books a month, which back in the day, that is nothing. I forget that when you have children, that's really hard to accomplish, and the months that I've gotten even a little bit close to accomplishing 8 books a month, I've had to really force myself and ignore a lot of stuff I'm supposed to be doing. So I debated if I wanted to do monthly wrap-ups. There are months where I'm just not reading that many books, and if they're not books that I absolutely love, I don't love to talk about them because I really don't like talking about things I don't enjoy. So today I actually want to talk about the top 10 books that I absolutely loved this year. Today is actually July 10th, and 2 days ago I finished the Empyrean series. Oh my god, I am obsessed with the Empyrean series. I have spent the last 2 days just watching edits and watching videos about Xaden and about Violet, so I am full on getting into that fandom. I've been listening to podcasts, I've been listening to so many things related to the Empyrean series because I'm so freaking obsessed. But today we're going to be talking about more than just the Empyrean series. We are going to be talking about my top 10 books for 2026 so far. Okay, so the first book I'm going to be talking about is Wrecked by Brie Elmina. This was actually the very first book I read of the entire year. So the premise of this book is that this girl, her sister, is getting married, and she finds out that her sister's fiance is actually the love of her life that she hasn't seen in many, many years. And the sister really wants her and her fiance to get along, and so she sends them, I can't remember where they were going, but she sends them on this trip to retrieve her wedding dress, and they get on a plane and things happen. I really don't want to spoil it. I love going into books completely blind. I love not knowing really what's going on. I think that's literally the best way to read. I love being surprised, I love not knowing, and I love figuring it out with the characters. And I thought it was really well written, and I really cared about these characters. Also, there's a part 2 that's coming. I think it's coming out in November, and I'm so freaking excited to read it. It's gonna be Katie's book. Katie is the sister, and wow, I loved this book. I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads. I actually made a few TikToks about it, and the way I talked about it, people really thought I hated it, and I wasn't trying to sound like that. I absolutely loved this book, and I'm so excited to see where the characters go from here. By the end of that book, I was in a puddle of tears because I just couldn't believe where it ends up. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. It's like a dual timeline book. I absolutely loved our male main character in the present chapters. In the past chapters, I loved him at first, and then he started to really make me angry. In the end, I ended up loving him. I'm just still, to this day, it's been 7 months since I read it, and I'm still stunned into silence about the end of that book. So the next book we are going to talk about is Call Me Baby by Nicole Fiorina, and this was a surprise drop book. There was no like wait for this book. She didn't announce that it was coming out. It wasn't something I was like anticipating. She just surprise dropped this book, and I have spoken in so many videos about how Nicole Fiorina is literally like one of my favorite authors. The way she writes, I don't know what it is. It just like takes me out of this world, and I feel like I just feel so big when I'm reading her books. And this book was absolutely no exception. It was way different than anything she's ever written before. It is very heavy on, some people would like to use the word smut. Some people would just say sex scenes. It's very heavy on that, but it all serves a purpose by the end of it, because when I first started reading it, I didn't love that. I don't like seek out super smutty books, but by the end of the book, I realized that every sex scene like served a purpose for the characters. Oh, it was so good, and it's like probably one of her like longest books, and I think I read it in a day and a half, if you want me to be completely honest, because I was just so like, where is this going? What's going on? The way it's written is very different. It's written with like stanzas. It's like written like a song almost, and it's incredible. Music is focused on so much in this book, and I actually really enjoyed that. She put a playlist up on Spotify, and I loved listening to the music while I was reading the book. I had so much fun doing it that way. And it's about this woman who is a songwriter in New York City. So that was really cool because I'm actually from New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn for like the first 10 years of my life, and then I lived on Staten Island, but my mom always worked in Manhattan. So I spent a lot of time in Manhattan growing up. And to read about all these places that I could like so like vividly see was so freaking cool. Andrew Harding, our main character, he's actually from Staten Island, so I thought that was so cool. And she kept referring to him as like her Staten Island boy, and I was like, oh my god, I could see this man like out on the streets. Like it was so funny to see Staten Island, of all places, referenced. And I feel like unless you're from Staten Island, you don't understand Staten Island. Staten Island is like its own universe almost. And reading about someone also from Staten Island was so freaking funny to me. I loved the way she wrote about Brooklyn and Manhattan. Sometimes I get very homesick. I do not live in New York City anymore, but sometimes I get homesick, and I will just read through a few of these chapters and it takes me right back to the city, and I just absolutely, I love it. It makes me miss it so much. It makes me love and appreciate it more than I ever have in my life. The way she wrote about Andrew Harding was like he was a myth from another world. Like, I was so intrigued by him because of like the mystery surrounding him. I feel like I can't explain a Nicole Fiorina book without like spoiling it. You just literally have to read it. It almost feels like you're on a different planet when you read her books. I don't understand how she does it. I don't get it, but like, she is one of my favorite authors of all time. I don't think she would be everyone's cup of tea. Like, I could think off the top of my head 5 people who I know wouldn't really love her writing, but to me it's like so moving. The end of this book though left me so confused and so intrigued for what's gonna happen next. I have the hardcover, like the special edition hardcover of it, and the sprayed edges look like a record. It is phenomenal. It's so good. It's literally the most beautiful book that I own, probably. Now, our female main character in this book, she does not do relationships. She basically like makes men sign contracts and she lets them live with her. She is a very successful songwriter, and she lets these men live with her, but they can't call her by her name. They have to call her baby. And she meets our male main character, Andrew Harding, and they get very attached to each other. And oh, I feel like I can't even explain the plot without kind of ruining it. Andrew Harding's main thing is that he gives girls their like sexual fantasies, and once he does it, you will never hear from him again, see him again. It's like he doesn't exist. He's like this myth, and then once you get to experience it, he kind of vanishes. Our female main character, she doesn't like to have actual sex. Their connection is so interesting, and it's so sad and heartbreaking, but I just felt every feeling with this book. I was angry, I was confused, I was mad. Oh, it was just so interesting, and I've never read a book quite like it before. So I absolutely loved that book. Okay, so next on my list, I finished the Windy City series I talked about in one of my previous videos. I read Mile High maybe a year or two ago, and I did not love it. And then everyone on TikTok just told me to like read the second book. It gets so much better. And so I did, and oh my God, did it get better. The Right Move, Ryan Shea, I absolutely loved the whole series, but I have to say probably my favorite one that I read this year, and the one that actually came out this year, was In Her Own League. Oh my God, Reese. I love bad female characters. I love women. Like, I love when women are written to be really cool, really strong, really powerful, really independent, and the men get to be like an accessory. And here is where I think I got so attached to the character of Reese, and where I couldn't really love our female main character in Mile High. So both of these women are plus size, and the thing that I couldn't really connect with when it came to Stevie is that she is plus size and she's very insecure about it. And it's like pointed out, and she is not super comfortable in her body, and it made me like feel really weird. Like, I just didn't like reading that, because again, I spoke about this in my last video, it hit me a little too close to home, and it just made me super uncomfortable to read that. Now Reese, our female main character in Her Own League, she is plus size, but she is super confident. She does not care. She does not apologize for it. She knows she's hot, and she completely owns it, and I absolutely loved reading that. It was really empowering to read, and I loved to see it. And I also love the fact that Monty was not emasculated by Reese's position of power. I thought that was really amazing to read, like a male main character who was just like, my girl's a bad. Love to see it. I love that Reese was not apologetic about who she was. And so I absolutely loved In Her Own League. Okay, so the next book we're going to talk about is Pieces of the Night by Jennifer Hartman. And I think I read this book at the absolute most perfect time for me to read it. Our female main character is very passionate about writing lyrics and about music, and she writes these little lyrics that pop into her head on like napkins, and she keeps all these napkins and these little small lyrics that she knows. It reminded me a lot of Taylor Swift actually, which is so funny. And this book opened up with like a huge bang. I was actually so confused. And then it just like unravels into this beautiful love story, and by the end of it I was in literal tears. And I loved the way our male main character loved her, and it was just so refreshing to see. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but she is in a relationship that she really should not be in, basically, and he just shows her the right way to be loved, and through that love she is able to realize how much more she deserves out of life. It was so beautiful to read that, to experience that love like through those pages. I was clapping and cheering the entire time reading this book until the end, and then I was so like devastated. But I love books that make me cry. I love books that make me cry, and this was definitely one of them. I love the journey that our male main character went on. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, but him just learning to not give up basically was so, I really needed to hear that. Like, I really, really needed to hear that. And I'm so glad I read this book when I did. My next book we're going to talk about is Saving Rain. Oh my God. Probably my favorite male main character that I read this year was Soldier. And he had me staring at a wall, hysterically crying, questioning the life choices of others, just put me in the most emotionally devastated state. From the day Soldier is born, he is like fighting against the odds. Like, literally from the minute he's born, his mom looks at him and names him Soldier because she tells him that he is going to be the one to save her, which is so evil to put on a baby. Like, I hated his mom from the very first scene that we meet her in. Soldier is basically dealing with the consequences of having a mom like he does, the tragedies that come with that lifestyle. It also touches on a topic that I think is so important right now to be discussing and to be having conversations about. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna say what it is, but it was like shocking to see that portrayed in a book, but also like you see stories on the news about this every single day. And so when you see how it has affected Soldier and his life, and it is just devastating. He really, if I could compare him to any character, it would probably be Joey Lynch in Saving Six. And that is all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to spoil this book. It was so incredible and I had the time of my life. I fell in love with Soldier and his story and how he overcame the consequences of his life, basically. And I was just rooting for him the entire book. I was clapping and cheering every single time anything good happened to him because it felt like nothing good ever happened to him. The very few times that something amazing happened for Soldier, I was clapping and cheering. Now, the next book we're going to talk about is Into the Blue. And this book, for some reason, took my breath away. So, Into the Blue is basically about a teenage girl who kind of accidentally starts taking acting lessons from one of her absolute favorite sci-fi series actresses. She went to school with the nephew of this actress who's on her favorite, very niche sci-fi TV show. Our male main character comes from a long line of very prestigious actors, and his aunt really wants him to get into acting, but he doesn't want to. He wants to be in the military. She kind of tricks him into taking these lessons from her for acting, and he has to take these lessons with her. And so they become so close, but they have a bit of an age gap. She is 16 turning 17 and he's like 20. So he knows it's not appropriate for him to be like interacting with her in that way. And so he leaves. So he disappears for 7 years, and eventually by coincidence they meet when they're both older. And it devastated her to lose that friendship that she had with him. And so later on, when they meet, they realize that this connection is way more than just a friendship. And the love between these two characters genuinely took my breath away. Seeing how they figured out that relationship, but what really took my breath away about this book was the fact that he had to face his own humanity, and the way he goes about it is very different than how she feels he should be going about it. And it is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I don't want to spoil, so I'm not gonna get into details, but this was probably one of my top reads of the entire year so far. I had the time of my life with this book, and where they end up is just I can't even get into it. I genuinely can't even get into it. I can't even talk about it because it's gonna make me cry. But I absolutely loved this book. Okay, so the next book we're gonna talk about is In 5 Years, and oh my goodness. I originally thought this was going to be a love story, but it ended up being the complete opposite, actually, if I'm being like completely honest. It was not a love story. So In 5 Years is about a very accomplished woman. She has this very successful life in New York. Once again, we're in New York, and she is very type A personality. She has her whole life planned and mapped out. So this girl basically has a dream / premonition of herself in 5 years' time. She sees the date, it is 2025 when she's in the dream, but in present day it's 2020. And in this dream, she is in this apartment with this strange man she's never seen before, even though she's engaged to someone else. So she spends the next 4 years basically trying to make sure that that situation never happens. That's really all you can say about this book without spoiling it, but it was so good. And this is a book about love. It is just not a love story. And so again, this book had me staring at a wall with my jaw open and tears streaming down my face. This book was so unexpected, and it's not something I would ever usually like seek out and pick up for myself, but I'm so happy I read it. And again, I believe in like divine timing, and I feel like I was meant to read this book when I did, and wow, it was incredible. Okay, so the last books that we are going to talk about is the Empyrean series. This was my very first fantasy read, and I'm not gonna lie, I expected to hate it. Not because it's not a good book, not because of the writing, because I love Rebecca Yarros, but because I genuinely believe, and if you've watched my vlogs of me reading through the Empyrean series, I say this all the time, sometimes I feel like I'm just too stupid to keep up with the world building of fantasy. Fourth Wing, number one, not hard to keep up with. So if you're someone like me who's not used to reading fantasy books and is nervous about starting a fantasy series, I would definitely suggest starting with Fourth Wing because it's so easy to read and it's so easy to be sucked into, and it's so easy to fall in love with Xaden Ryerson. Oh my God. I would see on TikTok people ranting and raving about Xaden Ryerson, and I was like, he's just another one of these fantasy boys that has no substance to him. He's just cool and magical and hot, and these girls are crazy. I am ignorant. I am stupid. Xaden Ryerson, best book boyfriend of all time. Potentially, we have more to come with him. Now, I just finished Onyx Storm days ago, so I feel like this is a very biased opinion. These were the best books I think I've ever read in my life. And Xaden Ryerson isn't even the best part. Violet Sorrengail, ladies and gentlemen, potentially the greatest like I sound so dramatic, I swear. I know this is because I literally just finished it, and we could talk about this again at the end of the year, but I am obsessed with Violet Sorrengail, who has every odd stacked against her, and she makes it work somehow. She figures out another way. That is something I absolutely loved about Violet, is that when things are too hard, you don't just walk away from them, you find another way. If it can't be done the way everyone else is doing it, that doesn't mean you still can't get it done. And that's exactly what Violet does. The way she has to, by the end of it, become a leader, like I have no words. I'm speechless. I am so happy I read these books. I genuinely have not had this much fun learning about a world since I read Nicole Fiorina's Hollow Heathen series. Oh my god, I loved those books, and they are also like in the realm of fantasy. They're more like magic than fantasy and like in another world, you know. Loved learning about the magic. I loved learning how everything works. I actually had so much fun. What I thought was going to be like boring and hard to keep up with was like fascinating. Oh my god, if you are someone who doesn't enjoy fantasy books, I really suggest just get through Fourth Wing, and I promise you will have a completely different outlook. I already bought multiple other fantasy books. I just bought I think it's called Starside, and I'm so excited to read that. That's gonna be my next fantasy. I also bought the first 3 books of the Shatter Me series. I've heard a lot of like mixed things about them, so I am just starting with the first 3, and I'm so excited to read it, and it's all because I decided to pick up Fourth Wing, and I'm so like grateful for it because I love trying new things. I love trying new genres of books, but it takes me a minute to really have a good time reading it. When I opened Fourth Wing, page 1, something is going on, the stakes are high, and I had so much fun reading it. I also loved the side characters. That's another thing about reading fantasy. You don't just fall in love with like the main couple of the book. I fell in love with every single side character. Okay, so that is going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun filming this video. I love talking about books that I absolutely loved. I have so many more videos planned, and I can't wait to get those filmed. I can't wait to do another one of these at the end of the year where I can talk about all my favorite books that I read by the end of 2026, and I still have my fingers crossed like a delusional psychopath that Claiming 10 by Chloe Walsh will be on that list. Where is Claiming 10? That's gonna be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.